Kelly Florence.
And this is Meg Hofdahl.
And this week we're talking about the movie Alien. So this is the month of February now. And do you know what February is, listeners? It is Women in Horror Month. Woohoo!
Yay!
So we're going to be talking about some female-centric horror movies. And then also giving you a little bit of history on some movies and some women in horror. So how are you, Meg? How was your January?
Good. Mulder and Scully had sex, so that's all I care about.
We were just rewatching it, and you know, as is typical of X-Files and Chris Carter, the less is more. He doesn't show anything, but it was obvious, and our worlds changed forever.
When Kelly and I met about 18 years ago, all we cared about was Mulder and Scully. We didn't, have families at that point. We were very young, and really, I mean, we have families now, but not much has changed. We still just care about Mulder and Scully. So, life is good.
It is, but seriously, and I was so thankful. I knew a few people who liked the X-Files. I actually knew Meg's husband before she knew him officially, and if you read her piece in Spider Mirror, you'll have already read this, but we met because of this show, and then, I mean, yeah, it's like the basis of so many things in our lives, so hooray.
X-Files is very important to us, and like somehow we're living in this world where we get to watch it now again, and we have another season, and this season's been really good so far, so
I mean, what else could we ask for, really?
Nothing. Life is good. I'm happy.
It's been amazing. I had a good January as well. Very quickly, when January started, I was back to work. I already talked about that. But it's been a good semester so far, but busy. And it's going to fly by, I'm sure. How is your school and all your deadlines and, you know, your kids being in school and all that going?
Good. January's good. I mean, January, let's be honest, it's like one of the lamest months of the year. But we have X-Files, and, I mean, TV's been pretty good overall, and I've been working hard, writing. It's been freezing outside, so focusing on that. Not that I'm outdoorsy anyway. But, yeah, life is good. And, if anybody's curious, on my birthday, what I watched, my horror movies were Wish Upon, Creep 2. Have you seen Creep or Creep 2?
No, what is that?
Okay, so Creep is this independent horror movie starring Mark Duplass. Do you know who that is? Okay. Spoiler alert, the image just came in my head. In Creep 2, he's completely naked, if that's a trigger alert for anybody who doesn't want to see that. But anyway, the first Creep it's just one of those movies that have, like, stuck in my head. It's shot like, Blair Witch style, or found footage. Well, sort of, yeah, found footage style. And it's about this guy, I won't give too much away, but it's about this guy who hires a videographer to come chronicle his life because he has cancer and he wants to make a video for his child. But it soon becomes evident maybe that's not the case, and it just starts getting under your skin, and it is just a masterful movie. So Creep 2 sort of is a little different, where it kind of starts off right away, but I enjoyed that as well. So I recommend them. They're very, very unique and interesting. And I was telling Luke about it, and I said he is the Michael Scott, or the David Brent, if you will, of murderers. You'll see what I mean.
Okay. The intriguing. And what was the other one you watched?
Oh, and I watched 47 Meters Down because you suggested that. You suggested Wish Upon, too. And what else did I say? Oh, and Before I Wake, which I feel bad because maybe I didn't like that movie as much as some people. Kate Bosworth was just a zombie.
I would not have cast her in the lead role as the mother either. But I loved Jacob Tremblay, and I loved the premise, and it really creeped me out.
I really like the premise, too. That's the sort of horror movie I love, where, like, there's, like, these sort of alternate like motives of these parents, and they're not perfect people, and they kind of are using this child a little bit. I just feel like if it had been different actors, it could have been so much better.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I'm glad you had a good birthday binge. Let's talk about Alien.
Okay.
So this came out in 1979. It has a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. It had a budget of $10 million, and it ended up making over $100 million. It was pitched as Jaws in space, and it has a bit of an older cast. The youngest cast member was Sigourney Weaver, and she was 29. And so, you know, it's not like some 20-somethings in space, which is kind of, you know, I didn't even think about it until I read that, oh yeah, most of the people are older.
That's kind of refreshing because, I mean, really, how many 29-year-old even astronauts are there? I mean, you have to, like, be very experienced and things like that. So I guess that was a nice realistic touch.
Yeah, so I appreciate that. This movie was directed by Ridley Scott, and it was written by Dan O'Bannon. And I was like, why do I know that name? He just wrote something I watched, and he wrote Return of the Living Dead. So he's the one who wrote with George Romero, and then they split the franchise, and George Romero got Day of Dawn of, you know, that part, and Dan O'Bannon got the Living Dead part of the title. And I was not impressed with Return of the Living Dead for some sexist reasons. But so then I was really surprised that he wrote this script because I feel like the female characters are strong.
Yeah, well, here's a question. What do you think of this sort of sci-fi horror genre? I mean, since he was doing more classic horror, and now this is more sci-fi horror, what do you think of sci-fi horror in general?
I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
I don't know what else to say about it. I think this still qualifies as horror, if that's kind of where you're going.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes people get really narrow-minded about what horror can be, but yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay. So, let's talk about this movie. Do you remember the opening scene when they're all waking up? I'm assuming it's like a space sleep, you know, that they've slept for a while. But that's like me every morning trying to get out of bed.
It feels like I've slept that long.
I mean, or it's just like, you know, it's hard to get going. And then I was also surprised. I can't think of another astronaut movie where they're smoking so much in space.
Oh, the 70s.
It was just like, yep, in the future we'll be smoking all the time. First of all, what I didn't talk about when I first saw this movie or anything, I don't remember. It's just one of those movies that was, like, my dad used to rent it, and I probably saw it before I should have. Like, I don't know what it's rated. I mean, maybe it's rated R. I don't know. Do you know?
No clue. But I have a sort of dad association with it, too.
Yeah.
It's like a dad movie a little bit, you know? Like, yeah, I just kind of, like, can feel his presence when I'm watching it.
But I remember, so this was, we lived in a kind of a small house when I was growing up. Just 2 bedrooms. And I could watch, like, if the curtains were open in the living room, from my bedroom, I could see into the living room. And the TV faced the window, but it was like reflecting in it, so I could watch movies like through that reflection, like through my bedroom door.
So you were watching like it sort of reverse, like the reverse shot.
You know, like movies that I wasn't supposed to watch. Like we're going to talk about Silver Bullet in a few weeks, and I watched that one like this too.
Oh, funny! You're like, wow, Gary Busey looks even weirder this way.
But then if the curtains were closed, it wasn't reflecting, and then I couldn't see anything. So anyway, that's my story. But I remember my dad would rent this, and it always creeped me out. I think not knowing the extent of what this alien can do and being in space. I mean, you can't call the police for help.
Well, it's just like when I watched 47 Meters Down for my birthday binge, it puts you in this situation where, like, this is stuck. This is not like a cabin in, you know, the woods and there's a lot of snow. I mean, this is really stuck. And I think that's because really you're taking the horror genre and that whole sort of setup of not necessarily strangers, but coworkers being stuck together, which I love. And you're putting it where, I mean, there are no escapes, right? So I love it. And I mean, the alien, I think for 1979 especially, is fucking creepy, and the graboid things.
Absolutely. No, it's great. And the scene when they go in and the egg pod things, they're really gross. And the sound that it makes, and it's like squelching and disgusting.
Sound makes all the difference.
I think that this setup is great. The alien's blood being like acidic, and it burns the hole through the ship. So they can't just cut it off the guy. Like, it makes such a great problem. You know, it's not like, we'll just remove it and it's fine. Or we'll just shoot it. You can't do anything. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I mean, and that's what's so fun about watching something like this. Have you seen that recent movie Life with Jake Gyllenhaal and Ryan Reynolds?
No.
Okay. I recommend it. A lot of people were like, it's an alien ripoff, but I feel like everybody says that about any horror movie that takes place in space now, because this movie is so iconic. But it has a very similar sort of feel to it, and it has a kind of a twist ending, and it sort of has this nostalgia for Alien. And anyway,
It's called Life, you said?
Yeah.
Okay. I have to check that out. The thing, and one of the reasons I didn't realize I loved this movie so much was that Sigourney Weaver's character, she's in charge and she's badass, but the men aren't listening to her, especially when the guys get stuck outside, or Veronica Cartwright, she's the other woman in this, which we love her from X-Files, of course, and then Witches of Eastwick. When they're, she's trying to say this is the order, and they disobey her, and if they had just listened to her, everything would have been fine.
Typical.
But she's such a strong character, and she gets even more badass in the sequels, right? Or sequel.
Yeah.
Which I haven't watched those in a long time, but I love it. And the iconic moment of the alien popping out of the guy. Yeah, coming out of his stomach. Like, holy crap.
I bet there are a lot of essays about how that's sort of like a sort of feminist thing, because there's sort of like almost a pregnancy aspect to it, you know? I could see a lot of eager film students, like, that would be a fun one to write something about, like, why he's sort of birthing this alien, so to speak. So, okay, here's something that I am just putting out into the universe. Is it a problem that Ripley is masculine? Is that a problem that a feminist, if we are gonna, and I think it's fair to say that she's a feminist icon in film, is it because she's masculine? And is it denouncing femininity and saying that women can be badass as long as they're like men? I'm not saying this is necessarily how I feel. I'm just saying, like, this is sort of a devil's advocate.
I don't think so. I mean, I hope not. I hope that's not why people like the character so much. I think that's just her character, and I don't think they created her that way in order to be believable or anything. But, with, like, to be an astronaut, you have to have either this military background or this training, and I feel like maybe she does put on a dress and high heels on the weekend, but this is work.
Right. So, yeah, I see what you're saying. That she still has feminine aspects to her that we don't necessarily explore, but, because I think that's something in films, it's like, is it feminist if she is just sort of a proxy for a man?
Interesting. What do you guys think? Call in to our anchor station and let us know. So, this plot, they're getting picked off one by one,
which like makes me feel almost like it's like And Then There Were None, or like an Agatha Christie. I mean, but in this brilliant sort of space setting. It's great. Like, I love it.
Yes, exactly. And the cat, is it Jones? Is that his name?
I think so.
And she has the cat, like that aspect too.
I think that makes me like her all the more, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, here's a question. Let's compare, why is Sigourney Weaver in this movie and then she's in Ghostbusters, in which she's maybe not so feminist?
And it's funny because I remember when we talked about Ghostbusters, we were like, we know she's badass and she can do it. Doesn't it seem natural? I mean, it's almost like she is a Ghostbuster. Like, she should have been one of the Ghostbusters.
Yeah, I mean, you watch this movie and it's like, talk about, I mean, Ghostbusters talk about men, like, who should have been listening. Like, she should have been in charge.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, and of course, obviously, I mean, an actress can play different roles and embody different parts, and she doesn't have to be badass, so to speak, and everything, and it can be sort of different levels, and it can be in different ways, but at the same time, it's almost striking how much in command she is in this situation, and then just watching her be, like, verbally sexually harassed by Bill Murray for 2 hours.
Yeah. I just love the premise and the setup of this movie, and I think it's a classic.
It is a classic. Did Campbell watch it with you?
He watched part of it. Oh, here it comes.
We have it on in the background, everybody. He's coughing and gasping. We have it on silent, but the alien's coming. He's about to be the proud father of an alien.
So Tom Skerritt is in this movie, and what I remember him the most from is Steel Magnolias. Do you love Steel Magnolias as much as I do?
Yeah, for some reason I was in high school. This guy nicknamed me that. Like Steel Magnolias.
Okay.
And I'd never seen the movie, and then people started calling me that for a while, and so then I finally watched it. And yeah, it's great. I mean, yes, there's some great performances in that movie. I didn't remember Tom Skerritt was in it, though.
He's the dad, I think.
Oh, okay. I know he was in Picket Fences. I didn't watch that either.
Either.
Oh my god,
the alien's kind of cute.
He was like looking around like a porg or something.
And he's got an underbite.
Aww.
They've done so many rip-offs and like spoofs of that scene, the alien coming out scene, that I feel like, oh, this is how it really goes. You know?
Yeah.
Like, what is it? Is it in Spaceballs when it's like, hello, my baby?
Yeah.
But Alien, I love it. I haven't seen the newest prequel. Have you?
Which one is that?
Well, there was Prometheus, and then there was Alien Covenant.
No, I didn't see Covenant.
I haven't either, but I've heard it's good.
I felt like I kind of defended Prometheus a little bit from people.
Oh.
Some people really hated it. I wouldn't say I loved it, but I wasn't like personally offended like some people were.
Why were people offended?
I don't know. But it was just, I mean, I have to remember, it was a long while ago, but people just didn't like it, and apparently it had some like plot holes,
like canon stuff. That people
canon stuff.
Agreeing with.
Yeah.
Interesting. I love the space burial where they just shoot the body out of the ship and it's just gone. It's sort of like at sea.
That's what I was gonna say, like a pirate. Yeah.
So that's fascinating
Is that how you want to go?
No.
Still alive?
There aren't. I'm assuming there aren't any space burials. Because has anybody died in space and they've shot their body off?
I was imagining like a rich person who could like have their body shot up.
Oh, yeah.
I bet you that's a thing for like people that are like we don't know any of them personally, but people who are like super, super rich and like, you know, the Illuminati or something.
Well, you mean Oprah and who else? Ellen, or I don't know who's in it.
Yeah, probably them.
I think somebody should start like a moon burial thing. Wouldn't that be cool to get buried on the moon?
Kelly, let's do it.
We'll just start up
We
with our
don't know anything about
$billion.
science or anything, but
Somebody get on that. We'll talk to Julie at the Intergalactic Travel Bureau. That's my friend, by the way. I'm not just making things up. So yeah, what else is there to say about Alien?
Ripley, believe it or not,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So this month, because it's Women in Horror Month, we're not going to be doing a typical fast forward segment. We're going to be in our second half here teaching you some history of women in horror. And that sounds boring, but it's not going to be boring. It's going to be fun. So keep listening. But right now we have to just rank Alien because we're not going to be ranking a fast forward. So, what are we going to use for our scale? We're going to use the little baby underbite alien, right?
He's so cute. He was like kind of blind, like a little puppy.
Yeah, he's like, that's what I imagined he sounds like. So, on little underbite alien babies, how many do you give alien?
I say 8.5.
Oh. Oh, you cut him in half.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, you.
I would give it an 8. I love it. It's not. I guess it's not a perfect movie, but that's how our scale goes. I forgot to say that 0 being you hated it, 10 being a perfect movie, but 8 little baby aliens. I think it holds up.
Yeah, actually, that's. I think a lot of the points come from it actually holding up quite well, and it's got some really good dialogue, and like, it's just shot well, and it doesn't feel, maybe aside from the smoking, it doesn't feel very dated.
Yeah, definitely. All right, stay tuned for our. Oh my gosh, wait! I have to tell you what's happening just right next. Are you ready for this, Meg?
I don't know. Is there going to be a test?
No, there won't be a test, but guess what? Guess who's back? Lisa Bowl is back.
Oh, yay!
Now, Lisa, if you have been listening, you'll notice that our mixology segment hasn't been around since Lisa went off to Louisville for work for a couple months. But she's back, and she's made us an alien-themed drink. I can't wait.
Oh, I'm excited to hear what it is. I want to see a picture of it, too.
So, Lisa, tell us what you made this week.
Hi, horror friends. Lisa here. And today we're going to make a drink inspired by Alien that I'd like to call Ripley's Revenge. For this drink, you are going to need bourbon, an orange, bitters, egg whites, Blue Moon, Chambord. We're going to put it in a coupe. We'll need a little bit of ice and absolutely our shaker. So things that kind of caught my eye in this terrifying and delightful film were the eggs and the fact that the crew was drinking beer that when you Google it, it was imagined to have been brewed in Colorado, hence our Blue Moon choice. All right, let's get started. Go ahead and grab your shaker. Keep it empty, no ice yet. We're going to put 1 ounce of bourbon. Going to squeeze 1/8 of an orange, the juice in, 3 dashes of bitters, and 1/2 an ounce of egg whites. Go ahead, put the lid on your shaker. Give it a couple shakes, thorough, but note the pressure. It might get a bit expansive, so don't go crazy. After you've shaken it just a bit, add the ice, chill it up, give it a shake, take that ice out. Go ahead and add 3 ounces of Blue Moon and just 1/4 ounce of Chambord. 1 more shake. And again, not too much with this one because of the carbonation, or your kitchen will be covered in Ripley's Revenge. So again, light shake on that, and that's going to make a nice frothy top for our drink. Go ahead and pour that out into a coupe, and let's garnish it with an orange wedge. Cheers, horror friends. Enjoy.
It's time for our Women in History for the month of February because it's Women in Horror Month. The first woman that we want to discuss this month is Vampira. You probably have heard the name Vampira, and maybe even you can immediately conjure her image in your head, but you might not know all of her history. She was born Maila Nurmi in Finland. She's a Finnish American, and she was born in 1922. She moved to the United States with her family and later moved to Los Angeles to become an actress. She modeled, had a couple of small roles in film, and was even in a play with Mae West. The story goes that Mae West fired her because she felt like she was being upstaged. Now, when she was on Broadway, she gained a lot of attention after appearing in a horror-themed show called Spook Scandals, and she screamed, fainted, and laid in a coffin, and lurked around a cemetery. So that sounds pretty familiar. And she actually sort of took that idea, combined with Morticia Addams, and created this character of Vampira.
She ended up being the first ever horror hostess on this TV show from 1954 to 1955. The Vampira show always started with her trance-like walk, the camera zoomed in on her face, and she let out a scream. It was pretty iconic. The horror show, unfortunately, was canceled after only a year, but she retained rights to that Vampira character. You'll probably remember one of her most iconic roles was in Ed Wood's Plan 9 from Outer Space. She was portrayed by Lisa Marie in that Tim Burton movie, and it gave her a bit of a resurgence to bring her back into the public eye. In the 80s, Vampira was asked to revive her character for television, and as she was working with the producers for this new television show, there started to be some problems and they had some creative differences. Now, according to Vampira, this was because they cast Cassandra Peterson, who eventually we know as Elvira, and she claims that they stole this out from under her. She ended up suing and lost in that lawsuit. So even though she claimed Vampira was stolen, the idea by Elvira, she was never compensated for that. A couple of interesting things to note. Vampira was close friends with James Dean, and after his death is when there was some scandal, and that's when her show got canceled. And also then, she never really worked again in Hollywood. She ended up being working as a carpenter and laying floors and all of these sort of physical labor jobs in California. She died on January 10th, 2008 of natural causes. She was 85 years old, and she's buried in the Hollywood Forever Cemetery. She only has 20 credits to her name, and these include movies, TV shows, and short films. And many of these credits are listed, but she's uncredited in the films themselves. It was rumored, and you can probably tell by pictures, that Vampira had only a 17-inch waist at the height of her career, and it was so specific looking. She had that tiny waist, the long fingernails, the high eyebrows arched, and of course the piercing scream. She lives on as an icon in horror, and as someone I wish that we could have known more about. Check out a couple of books and documentaries about her if you want to learn more. There's a book called The Monster Show. It was written by David J. Scull, and there's also a documentary called Vampira and Me. Don't miss the rest of our segments this month as we explore more women in the horror industry.